Canto 21. From bridge to bridge thus, speaking other things of which my comedy cares not to sing, we came along, and held the summit, when we halted to behold another fissure of Malabolgia, and other vain laments, and I beheld it marvellously dark. As in the arsenal of the Venetians boils in the winter the tenacious pitch to smear their unsound vessels o'er again, for sail they cannot, and instead thereof one makes his vessel new, and one recalks the ribs of that which many a voyage has made, one hammers at the prow, one at the stern, this one makes oars, and that one cordage twists, another mends the mainsail and the mizzen. Thus, not by fire, but by the art divine, was boiling down below there a dense pitch, which upon every side the bank belimed. I saw it, but I did not see within it aught but the bubbles that the boiling raised, and all swell up and resubside compressed. The while below there fixedly I gazed, my leader crying out, "Beware, beware!" drew me unto himself from where I stood. Then I turned around, as one who is impatient to see what it behooves him to escape, and whom a sudden terror doth unman, who, while he looks, delays not his departure. And I beheld behind us a black devil, running along upon the crag approach. Ah, how ferocious was he in his aspect, and how he seemed to me in action ruthless, with open wings and light upon his feet. His shoulders, which sharp-pointed were and high, a sinner did encumber with both haunches, and he held clutched the sinews of the feet. From off our bridge he said, "O Malabranca, behold one of the elders of Saint Zita. Plunge him beneath, for I return for others unto that town, which is well furnished with them. All there are barrators, except Bonturo. No into yes for money there is changed." He hurled him down, and over the hard crag turned round, and never was a mastiff loosened in so much hurry to pursue a thief. The other sank, and rose again face downward. But the demons, under cover of the bridge, cried, "Here the Santo Volto has no place. Here swims one otherwise than in the Circio. Therefore, if for our gaffs thou wishest not, do not uplift thyself above the pitch." They seized him then with more than 100 rakes. They said, "It here behooves thee to dance covered, that, if thou canst, thou secretly mayest pilfer. Not otherwise the cooks their scullions make immerse into the middle of the cauldron the meat with hooks, so that it may not float." Said the good master to me, "That it be not apparent thou art here, crouch thyself down behind a jag, that thou mayest have some screen. And for no outrage that is done to me be thou afraid, because these things I know, for once before was I in such a scuffle." Then he passed on beyond the bridge's head, and as upon the 6th bank he arrived, need was for him to have a steadfast front. With the same fury and the same uproar as dogs leap out upon a mendicant who on a sudden begs where'er he stops, they issued from beneath the little bridge, and turned against him all their grappling irons. But he cried out, "Be none of you malignant. Before those hooks of yours lay hold of me, let one of you step forward who may hear me, and then take counsel as to grappling me." They all cried out, "Let Malacoda go!" Whereat one started, and the rest stood still, and he came to him, saying, "What avails it?" "Thinkest thou, Malacoda, to behold me advanced to this place," my master said, "safe hitherto from all your skill of fence, without the will divine, and the fate auspicious? Let me go on, for it in heaven is willed that I another show this savage road." Then was his arrogance so humbled in him, that he let fall his grapnel at his feet, and to the others said, "Now strike him not." And unto me, my guide, "O thou who sittest among the splinters of the bridge crouched down, securely now return to me again." Wherefore I started, and came swiftly to him, and all the devils forward thrust themselves, so that I feared they would not keep their compact. And thus beheld I once afraid the soldiers who issued under safeguard from Caprona, seeing themselves among so many foes. Close did I press myself with all my person beside my leader, and turned not mine eyes from off their countenance, which was not good. They lowered their rakes, and "Wilt thou have me hit him," they said to one another, "on the rump?" And answered, "Yes, see that thou nick him with it." But the same demon who was holding parley with my conductor turned him very quickly, and said, be quiet, Scarmiglione." Then said to us, "You can no farther go forward upon this crag, because is lying all shattered at the bottom the 6th arch. And if it still doth please you, go onward, pursue your way along upon this rock. Near is another crag that yields a path. Yesterday, 5 hours later than this hour, 1,266 years were complete, that here the way was broken. I send in that direction some of mine to see if any one doth err himself. Go ye with them, for they will not be vicious." "Step forward, Alecchino and Calcobrina," began he to cry out. "And thou, Cagnazzo, and Barbarica, do thou guide the 10. Come forward, Libacoco and Dragognazzo, and tusked Siriato and Grafficane, and Farfarello, and mad Rubicante. Search ye all round about the boiling pitch. Let these be safe as far as the next crag, that all unbroken passes o'er the dens." "O me, what is it, master, that I see? Pray let us go," I said, "without an escort, if thou knowest how, since for myself I ask none. If thou art observant as thy wont is, dost thou not see that they do gnash their teeth, and with their brows are threatening woe to us?" And he to me, "I will not have thee fear. Let them gnash on, according to their fancy, because they do it for those boiling wretches." Along the left-hand dike they wheeled about, but first had each one thrust his tongue between his teeth toward their leader for a signal, and he had made a trumpet of his rump. Canto 22. I have erewhile seen horsemen moving camp, begin the storming, and their muster make, and sometimes starting off for their escape. Vaunt couriers have I seen upon your land, O Arentines, and foragers go forth. Tournaments stricken, and the joustings run, sometimes with trumpets and sometimes with bells, with kettle drums and signals of the castles, and with our own, and with outlandish things, but never yet with bagpipes so uncouth did I see horsemen move, nor infantry, nor ship by any sign of land or star. We went upon our way with the 10 demons. Ah, savage company! But in the church with saints, and in the tavern with the gluttons. Ever upon the pitch was my intent, to see the whole condition of that bolgia, and of the people who therein were burned. Even as the dolphins, when they make a sign to mariners by arching of the back, that they should counsel take to save their vessel, thus sometimes to alleviate his pain, one of the sinners would display his back, and unless time conceal it, then it lightens. As on the brink of water in a ditch, the frogs stand only with their muzzles out, so that they hide their feet and other bulk, so upon every side the sinners stood. But ever as Barbarica near them came, thus underneath the boiling they withdrew. I saw, and still my heart doth shudder at it, one waiting thus, even as it comes to pass one frog remains, and down another dives. And Graphiacon, who most confronted him, grappled him by his tresses smeared with pitch, and drew him up, so that he seemed an otter. I knew before the names of all of them, so had I noted them when they were chosen, and when they called each other, listened now. O Rubicante, see that thou do lay thy claws upon him, so that thou mayest flay him, cried together the accursed ones. And I, my master, see to it, if thou canst, that thou mayest know who is the luckless wight, thus come into his adversary's hands. Near to the side of him my leader drew, asked of him whence he was, and he replied, I in the kingdom of Navarre was born. My mother placed me servant to a lord, for she had borne me to a ribald knave, destroyer of himself and of his things. Then I domestic was of good King Tybalt. I set me there to practice barratry, for which I pay the reckoning in this heat. And Ciriato, from whose mouth projected on either side a tusk, as in a boar, caused him to feel how one of them could rip. Among malicious cats the mouse had come, but Barbarica clasped him in his arms and said, Stand ye aside while I enfork him. And to my master he turned round his head. Ask him again, he said, if more thou wish to know from him, before someone destroy him. The guide. Now tell then of the other culprits. Knowest thou anyone who is a Latian under the pitch? And he, I separated lately from one who was a neighbor to it. Would that I still were covered up with him, for I should fear not either claw nor hook. And Libicoccio, we have borne too much, and with his grapnel seized him by the arm, so that, by rending, he tore off a tendon. Ec Dragignazzo wished to pounce upon him down at the legs, whence their decurion turned around and round about with an evil look. When they again somewhat were pacified of him, who was still looking at his wound, demanded my conductor without stay, who was that one, from whom a luckless parting thou sayest thou hast made to come ashore? And he replied, It was the friar Gomita, he of Galura, vessel of all fraud, who had the enemies of his lord in hand, and dealt so with them each exults thereat. Money he took, and let them smoothly off, as he says. And in other offices a barrator was he, not mean, but sovereign. Forefathers with him, one Don Michael Zanche of Logodoro, and of Sardinia, to gossip never do their tongues feel tired. Oh me, see that one, how he grinds his teeth. Still farther would I speak, but I am afraid lest he to scratch my itch be making ready. And the Grand Provost turned to Farfarello, who rolled his eyes about as if to strike, said, "Stand aside there, thou malicious bird." "If you desire either to see or hear," the terror-stricken recommenced thereon, "Tuscans or Lombards, I will make them come. But let the Malabranca cease a little, so that these may not their revenges fear, and I, down sitting in this very place, for one that I am will make 7 come when I shall whistle, as our custom is to do whenever one of us comes out." Cagnazzo at these words his muzzle lifted, shaking his head, and said, "Just hear the trick which he has thought of, down to throw himself." Whence he, who snares in great abundance had, responded, "I by far too cunning am, when I procure for mine a greater sadness." Alekin held not in, but running counter unto the rest, said to him, "If thou dive, I will not follow thee upon the gallop, but I will beat my wings above the pitch, the height be left, and be the bank a shield to see if thou alone dost countervail us." Oh, thou who readest, thou shalt hear new sport. Each to the other side his eyes diverted. He first, who most reluctant was to do it. The Navarrese selected well his time, planted his feet on land, and in a moment leaped, and released himself from their design, whereat each one was suddenly stung with shame, but he most who was cause of the defeat, therefore he moved, and cried, "Thou art overtaken." But little it availed, for wings could not outstrip the fear. The other one went under, and, flying, upward he his breast directed. Not otherwise the duck upon a sudden dives under, when the falcon is approaching, and upward he returneth cross and weary. Infuriate at the mockery, Calcabrina, flying behind him, followed close, a desirous the other one should escape to have a quarrel. And when the barrator had disappeared, he turned his talons upon his companion, and grappled with him right above the moat. But sooth, the other was a doughty sparhawk to clapper-claw him well, and both of them fell in the middle of the boiling pond. A sudden intercessor was the heat, but nevertheless of rising there was naught, to such degree they had their wings belimed. Lamenting with the others, Barbarica made 4 of them fly to the other side, with all their gaffs, and very speedily this side and that, they to their posts descended. They stretched their hooks towards the pitch ensnared, who were already baked within the crust, and in this manner busied did we leave them. Canto 23. Silent, alone, and without company we went, the one in front, the other after, as go the minor friars along their way. Upon the fable of Aesop was directed my thought, by reason of the present quarrel, where he has spoken of the frog and mouse. For Mo and Isa are not more alike than this one is to that, if well we couple end and beginning with a steadfast mind. And even as one thought from another springs, so afterward from that was born another, which the first fear within me double made. Thus did I ponder. These on our account are laughed to scorn, with injury and scoff so great, that much I think it must annoy them. If anger be engrafted on ill will, they will come after us more merciless than dog upon the leveret which he seizes. I felt my hair stand all on end already with terror, and stood backwardly intent, when said I, Master, if thou hidest not thyself and me forthwith of Malabranca, I am in dread. We have them now behind us. I so imagine them. I already feel them. And he, if I were made of leaded glass, thine outward image I should not attract sooner to me than I imprint the inner. Just now thy thoughts came in among my own, with similar attitude and similar face, so that of both one counsel soul I made. If peradventure the right bank so slope that we to the next bolgia can descend, we shall escape from the imagined chase. Not yet he finished rendering such opinion, when I beheld them come with outstretched wings, not far remote, with will to seize upon us. My leader on a sudden seized me up, even as a mother who by noise is wakened and close beside her sees the enkindled flames, who takes her son and flies and does not stop, having more care of him than of herself, so that she clothes her only in a shift. And downward from the top of the hard bank, supine he gave him to the pendant rock, that one side of the other bolgia walls. There ran so swiftly water through a sluice to turn the wheel of any land-built mill when nearest to the paddles it approaches, as did my master down that border, bearing me with him on his breast away as his own son, and not as a companion. Hardly the bed of the ravine below his feet had reached, ere they had reached the hill right over us. But he was not afraid, for the high providence, which had ordained to place them ministers of the fifth mote, the power of thence departing took from all. A painted people there below we found, who went about with footsteps very slow, weeping, and in their semblance tired and vanquished. They had on mantles with the hoods low down before their eyes, and fashioned of the cut that in Cologne they for the monks are made. Without, they gilded are so that it dazzles, but inwardly all leaden and so heavy that Frederick used to put them on of straw. Oh, everlastingly fatiguing mantle! Again we turned us, still to the left hand along with them, intent on their sad plaint. But owing to the weight, that weary folk came on so tardily that we were new in company at each motion of the haunch. Whence I unto my leader, See thou find some one who may by deed or name be known, and thus in going move thine eye about. And one who understood the Tuscan speech cried to us from behind, Stay your feet, ye who so run athwart the dusky air. Perhaps thou'lt have from me what thou demandest. Whereat the leader turned him and said, Wait, and then according to his pace proceed. I stopped, and two beheld I show great haste of spirit in their faces to be with me, but the burden and the narrow way delayed them. When they came up, long with an eye askance, they scanned me without uttering a word. Then to each other turned and said together, He by the action of his throat seems living, and if they dead are, by what privilege go they uncovered by the heavy stole? Then said to me, Tuscan, who to the college of miserable hypocrites art thou come, do not disdain to tell us who thou art. And I to them, Born was I, and grew up in the great town on the fair river of Arno, and with the body am I've always had. But who are ye, in whom there trickles down along your cheeks such grief as I behold? And what pain is upon you that so sparkles? And one replied to me, These orange cloaks are made of lead so heavy that the weights cause in this way their balances to creak. Frati Gaudenti were we, and Bolognese, I Catalano, and he Lodoringo named, and together taken by thy city, as the wont is to take one man alone for maintenance of its peace. And we were such that still it is apparent round Gardingo. O friars, began I, you're iniquitous, but said no more. For to mine eyes there rushed one crucified with 3 stakes on the ground. When me he saw, he writhed himself all over, blowing into his beard with suspirations, and the friar Catalan, who noticed this, said to me, This transfixed one, whom thou seest, counselled the Pharisees that it was meet to put one man to torture for the people. Crosswise and naked is he on the path, as thou perceivest, and he needs must feel, whoever passes, first how much he weighs. And in like mode his father-in-law is punished within this mote, and the others of the council, which for the Jews was a malignant seed. And thereupon I saw Virgil's marvel o'er him who was extended on the cross so vilely in eternal banishment. Then he directed to the friar this voice, Be not displeased, if granted thee, to tell us if to the right hand any pass slope down by which we too may issue forth from here, without constraining some of the black angels to come and extricate us from this deep. Then he made an answer. Nearer than thou hopest there is a rock, that forth from the great circle proceeds, and crosses all the cruel valleys, save that at this 'tis broken, and does not bridge it. You will be able to mount up the ruin that sidelong slopes and at the bottom rises. The leader stood a while with his head bowed down, then said, The business badly he recounted who grapples with his hook the sinners yonder. And the friar, Many of the devil's vices once heard I at Bologna, and among them that he's a liar and the father of lies. Thereat my leader with great strides went on, somewhat disturbed with anger in his looks, whence from the heavy laden I departed after the prints of his beloved feet.